we're going to do a little bit of a recap over here. The Gemara said that there's two types of, the body is split into two parts. The hair and the body. Midoraisa, the Torah says, Rochas is Pesori b'mayim. And then another Gemara says, Rochas S comes to include your hair. And then the Gemara said, so what's this, what's the Halacha Moshe Sinai over here? Hilchasa, the what? That Midoraisa, you need Rubai or Makbet in order to be Chaitzitz. You need Rubai or Makbet to be Chaitzitz. It's got to cover most of your body, 50%, and you have to care about the type of Chatzitza. It can't be something you don't care about. So, take a look at the top Rashi, top of the page. We're going to do a little bit of a deep dive here, since this is a short daf, short Amud. Rubai, Raiv Sa'arai, let's say most of your hair. Second Rashi on the page. So first of all, Rashi says Dvat Torah. Rashi says Halacha L'Moshe Sinai. It doesn't mean Midoraisa. It means that what's Halacha L'Moshe Sinai? Rashi says it doesn't mean this is not a pasuk beforish. Rashi is saying this is the Halacha L'Moshe Sinai. So what's the din of Rubai Makbid? Raiv Sa'arai Metunafetit. If most of your hair is covered in pit, it's covered in mud, Oy Kashur Achas. So your hairs are each one by itself is tied. Shalom. Each one is tied. Umakbidolav, and you don't want knots in your hair. You don't want dirt on your hair. Chaitzetz. That's considered a chatzitza. So, what's strange about this Rashi? The way we explained it yesterday is any chatzitza on your whole body has to be rubai umakbid, not just on your hair, right? What happens if you have a chatzitza on your skin, on part of your skin, or you're not makbid, it's your whole skin, but you're not makbid, most of your skin, you're not makbid. We said, the Pashtus is, this is going on your whole body, your flesh. Rashi says that this Halacha Moshe Sinai is talking about your hair, right? That's what Rashi says. When do we say Rubai Makbid, Roiv Sarai? Meaning, the implication being, any chatzitza on your skin will be a chatzitza. Now, if you don't believe me that that's Pshat and Rashi, take a look at Taisus. Taisus says, Dvat Torah Rubai Makbid Olav Chaytzetz. Yesh Mefarshim. He doesn't spell out Rashi, but this is L'chayr what Rashi is saying. Dahacha Ayri B'Sairai. When do you say you need Rubai and Makbid to be considered a chatzitza? That's if it's going on your hair. Ava Babasa, but with your flesh. Even one little drop of paint, and you're not makbid on it, you don't care. You got a drop of nail polish, you don't care if it's there. Chatzitza midoraisa. Maybe that's why we're very makbid, even on a drop. But Taisa says that's what Rashi is saying. L'chayra. When do we say rubai or makbid is a problem? That's only if it's on your hair, but if it's on your skin, anything is bad. Anything's going to pass you. For kasha, he's got kashas, doesn't make sense. There's a gemorah that says, Nochris mubaresh and is gaira. Let's say a woman, she wants to become Jewish. A goy, she decides to become Jewish. She's got to go dip in the mikveh, right? What happens if she's pregnant? Right? So the uber in her stomach, the baby in her stomach, what's the din? So the gemorah says, the baby that she's carrying doesn't need to be taiva, doesn't need to go to mikvah. The Gemara asks, why not? Why doesn't the baby need to go to the mikvah? If you're going to tell me because it's not rubai or makbid, the baby wants the mother there, you don't have rubai or makbid. Says the Gemara, what are you talking about? Rubai Makbid, that's only Rubai Makbid is muta. Rubai Ve'enu Makbid. But if Kulai, the Gemara says Kulai is a Chatzitza. Rubai Ve'enu Makbid is not a problem, according to the Gemara, right? Your whole body is covered in, I don't know what, you're wearing a wetsuit, it's right, your body is covered, that's not a Chatzitza, because you're not Makbid. You walk around with a wetsuit the whole day. But your whole body? then that's a problem. On your rave isn't a problem, but your whole body, and this baby that's in the uterus, it's kulai. So that's for sure chatzitza. Right? So it comes up. You got it? The gemorah asks, the baby, the gemorah says, well, you're going to tell me the baby's got a problem there.
Baby doesn't touch the water at all?
The baby doesn't touch the water at all. She's in the uterus. The baby doesn't touch the water at all. So exactly, that's what Gemara says. The Gemara says, you can't tell me that it's rubai ve'enu makbid, and therefore it's a good tefillah. It's not rubai ve'enu makbid, it's kulai. And kulai is a problem. That's what the Gemara says. Kulai is for sure a problem. Kulai is a chatzitza. Rubai is not a chatzitza. But kulai is a chatzitza. In other words, if someone's covered head to toe in a wetsuit, feet, face, goggles, the whole thing, that's a chatzitza, even if you're not makbid. Rubai, if you've got your hands are showing, that's not a chatzitza. So says the Gemara, says Taisus, says Taisus, the Gemara could have said a better kasha. What are you telling me? It's kulai, rubai, there's a difference. The basa afilu mashu. According to Rashi, with skin, even a dot is a chatzitza. You just told me that according to Rashi, the whole din of rupa and makbid, that's the din in sar. Hey, so the ubar, even what are you saying? It's kulai as opposed to rubai. Even a drop, according to Rashi, is a chatzitza. So you see from this gemorah that your skin is not a chatzitza and it's rubai makbid. The din of rubai makbid is going on the skin or the hair. For the gemorah with the baby, it's clear that rubai makbid is also going on your skin, not just your hair. Lefech, the baby doesn't have any hair at all, probably, right? So there's no din of rubai makbid on this baby. So that's Taisus kasha. Okay. So you see from there clearly the rubai makbid is not just a din in hair; it's a din in flesh also. All right, just wanted to point that out. As a separate machlokes, the Goinim and the Rambam, how do you calculate rubai? Is the hair and your skin two separate entities? So according to Rambam, you look at it together. You measure the surface area of your hair and your body. You say the surface area of your hair and your body is 10 square meters, whatever it is. I'm making that up. It might be 100 times more. 10 square meters. If 5.5 square meters are covered with your bathing suit, it's a chatzitza. But according to the Gainim, there's two separate cheshbonos. So the Gainim say, no, you look at the body. If the body is roiv covered, chatzitza. If the hair is roiv covered, chatzitza. In other words, according to the Gainim, if your hair is roiv mostly covered, chatzitza, pasal. If your body is mostly covered, chatzitza. According to Rambam, no, you look at both together. You add them both together. Each one's got a chumrah in a different case, in a different scenario. The question is, you look at it together. I find the Ga'inim shot much more practical because if you look at it together, it's very easy to work out the surface area of a person's body, right? Very easy. It's relatively easy. But to go ahead and calculate the surface area of your hair, right? I don't know. That's like a major. To calculate the surface of your head, it's like a major scientific formula. You've got to start calculating how many hairs are on this guy's head and the surface area of, like, you know.
See, thankfully, many
that it's known that its hair has massive surface area, right? That's why your lungs have got, you got these what they call villi in your system. It's like little hairs, follicles to absorb the oxygen because of the massive surface area of like a hair.
Right.
It's not just the hair surface area, like, okay, that's your surface area. Each hair is covered all the way around. So according to Gainim, it's not a problem. You look at half the head, you look at all the hair, is most of the hair covered or not? If you're going to start cheshboning the hair and the body together, how are you going to calculate, if you're the Rambam, the surface area of the hair on your head and the body together? You got to cheshbon together. In other words, a guy could have his hair covered if he's the Rambam, all his hair is messy, and that might be right his body. No? According to Rambam, but Rambam says you got to start calculating. Is that more than your whole body? Not more than your whole body. You might have a part of your hair covered. So I don't know. It's not that complicated with Rambam because I don't know. It's complicated. to go and make that cheshbon. Okay, let's go back to Gemara. All right, it says we're by the two dots. Torah Bonar. There's one more could we could throw in here in this Rashi. Rashi says, when we're here, that one knot in the hair is a chatzitza. And the Chaim asked, like, what do you mean one knot in the hair is a chatzitza? You got a long strand of hair, there's a knot in the middle, it's like 100th of the length of your hair. Why is that considered rive? It's not rive, it's one dot in your hair. It's blocked, the water can't come in. You've got a long string of hair, 35 centimeters long, and there's a knot in the middle. Rashi says, chaitzitz. Take a look at Rashi. Kasha achas, tied 1-1. So someone learned Rashi. The only way you can understand it is if this guy sat down with his 50,000 hair follicles and the entire length of the hair, or half the length of the hair, rave, is tied knots. It's a big doichuk because the whole problem is water can't get in. I never saw someone saying this, but the water can't get in the tiny, even within the knot, most of it's still accessible. It's only like a dot in the middle, right? So even if there's knots, the whole hair is knotted. So some want to say a different pshat, which I find just as schwer to say that really the din of chatzitza in the hair is that the hair has to be in the water completely. Why? So the part of the hair that's touching the skin, that place that's touching the skin has got like full access to the water. And if there's any knot in the hair, so it's like the skin is not touching the water. The problem is really the skin, not the hair. And therefore any knot creates a problem. It's not marketable like that. It's a real question over here. What's Rashi mean? Says a gemorah. Torah Rabbanan. The rabbis taught Shnaim Kirchason. We're back to SUCCAH. 10 lines down. Shnaim Kirchason. V'shlishis afilu tefach. How many walls does your SUCCAH have to have?
3.
Shnaim Kirchason, 2 proper walls, and 1 tefach, and 1 a tefach. Everyone knows the famous vort of, I think it was I think is that Rizal or the Gra, one of the two. He says, what's it symbolize? You're sitting in the sukkah, you're being hung by Kodesh Baruch Hu. So you've got shtei tefachim, and 1 shtu amas, and 1 tefach. It's a hug. That's how you hug someone. Put your arm around them. That's the sukkah, is like a hug. You need 2 walls and 1 hand breadth. That's what the sukkah represents. So shtaim kilchasam v'shishas afilu tefach. Reb Shimon shalosh kilchasa needs 3 full walls. V'revius afilu tefach, and the 4th wall can be a tefach. So we've got a machlokes here. Do you need 2 plus a tefach, or do you need 3 plus a tefach? Okay. Says the Gemara, what's this going on? What's going on over here? But Maikim Ifligi, what are they arguing about? Rabbanan Savri, Yeshem Mikra, Yeshem Mesiris, Rishim Sava, Yeshem Mikra. So the question is, what do we learn from? You have a pasuk, you have a verse in Torah. It says, Basukas Teishvu. What do we derish? What are we learning from? The way it's pronounced, the way it's Mikra, the way it's read, Kriya means to be read, or the Mesiris, how it was handed down, how it's written. The Mesiris is actually what was passed over, what was actually given physically. The physical book, the Sefer Torah, was handed over, written. That's why it means Mesiris. What was handed down, the written text was passed down. In other words, obviously the Mikra was also handed down. So why is the Mesiris called that was written? Because it was Mosav Miyad Liyad, handed, passed from hand to hand. You don't pass from hand to hand how you pronounce something. That's just how you read it. So that's the machlokes. Yeshem Mikra, Yeshem Mesiris. So let's do a little bit of analysis. What's going on over here? It says in the pasuk, "Basukas, basukas, basukas." It says 3 times in the sukkah you should sit, right? Basukas, basukas, basukas. Do we have the pasuk here? Yeah, let's read the pasuk. It says in the pasuk, "Basukas teish v'shivas yomim kol ezach b'Yisrael yeshu basukas." The man yedu b'zor zechel ki basukas hashavtis b'nei Yisrael. So it says 3 times in that parasha sukkahs, right? Why did it say sukkahs 3 times? It could have just said, sit in the sukkahs, and we would know you're talking about the sukkahs. You have to repeat it, right? You mentioned it 3 times. You said the word again and again and again. It's come to teach you something. It's come to teach us how many walls are in the sukkah. So, basukas, 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 harikan arba. Why are there 4? Because it says 3 times. Sukkahs. Let's read it back. Let's go back up 1 line. Sorry. Rabbanan Sov Yeshem L'Mesayres, Yeshivs Sov Yeshem L'Mikra. Rabbanan Sov Yeshem L'Mesayres, you look at how it's written. Why? It says Basukais without a vav, Basukais without a vav, Basukais with a vav. In other words, Sukkahs, you could read that without the vav as Sukkahs, one sukkah. Sukkahs is plural. So 1 plus 1 plus 2 is 4. So there's 4 sukkahs in the verse. Harikan arba, you've got 4 sukkahs, 1 plus 1 plus 2. Dalchad legufei, remove one of these that you need to tell me we're talking about sukkah. Otherwise you won't know. You've got to say something on one of them. So you got 4 minus 1 is 3. Partial utilsa, you're left with 3. Shtaim kehilchasan, 2 proper ones, vasa hilchasa, and you got halacha Moshe Messina tell me v'grasa l'shlishis v'kusat tefach. The halacha Moshe Messina tells me that one of your 3 walls could be a tefach. That's what the halacha Moshe is telling you. Halacha Moshe is taking down one of your walls from a full big wall to tefach. So you need 3 walls. Sukkah, 4 minus 1 what you need to understand the pasuk. So you got 3 walls, and the halacha Moshe is reducing one of those walls to tefach. So what does Reb Shimon say? Reb Shimon Savar, no, Yeshein L'Mikra. We don't look at how it's written. You look at how it's called, how it's the Mikra, how it's read, the Kriya. How do you read it? Forget about the spelling. It says sukkah. How many is that? Each one is plural. Sukkah is plural, sukkah is plural, sukkah is plural. That's 6. 2 is 6. Harikan Sheish. Dalchad kol gufei, one pasuk, one of those 6 you need for itself. Now it's not one of the 6, it's one of the words, sukkos. So what you're left with, sukkos and sukkos. What sukkos and sukkos? 4. You're back to 4. Pashul Arabi, you're left with 4. In other words, you don't say it's 6 minus 1, it's 4 minus 1. Because we're not looking at how it's written, we're looking at how it's said. You have to say sukkos, right? And therefore, you're left with 2 sukkos, which is 4, minus 1 that you need. What are you left with? So, the Lachem Moshe Messina knocks down the 4th wall and makes it into a tefach. So that's the machlokes in Kornbluth and gemorah. Do you look at how it's written, how it's said, and either you went from 4 to 3 and 3 to 2 and a tefach, or 3 to 2 and 2 to one of them is a tefach? Feed by saying no. Everyone agrees. You look at how it's. We look at how it's said, not how it's written. So in other words, there's for sure 4. There's never 3. We start off with 4, not with 3, right? So what's a machlokes? Why does he say it's 4 minus a half, and he says it's 3 minus a half? The machlokes is, does the SUCCAH need the pasuk? Does the SUCCAH itself have to be one of those 4? In other words, it says 4, sukkah, it says 4. Is the SUCCAH 1, you're left with 3. And 3, halacha Moshe says one of those 3 could be a tefach, or not. The SUCCAH doesn't need a krah. If you by saying there's another way to learn it, everyone learns from the way it's written. What's the machlokes? Masav v'kiyasa hilchasa ligareya or masav v'hilchasa lo haisif. So of course you look at how it's written. It's in 4, right? And you need 1 for the gufa shel davar. So you're left with 3. And is the halacha Moshe Sinai taking the 3 down to 2 and a bit, or is it adding a bit, saying it's 3 and a bit? Is the halacha Moshe Sinai adding or it's reducing? Everyone says it's taking away. And everyone agrees, Yeshem L'Mesayres, look at how it's written. And in other words, you started with 6, you went down to 4. The question is can we take away the 1 because the first one? One says, no, you can re-dirish the first one, even though you need it really, but we can still dirish from it. Once you're making drasha, you add that in there also. And Rav Masna, no, it's nothing to do with Yeshem L'Mikra, Yeshem L'Mesayres. There's another whole pshat over here. What's going on? Time of the B'Shimon Mahach, why do you need 4 walls? It says, V'sukkah l'tzel yoyim m'chayr v'l'michsel l'mistar, mizer u'mata. The sukkah should be cell, should protect you, shadow, day and night. L'tzel yoyim in the day, u'm'chayrev, from the michsel, the mist, and the from the rain, the winds. It should protect you. The sukkah is there to protect you. So take a look in Rashi. Rashi says, what does this mean? It's 3 lines further up in Rashi. Without full walls, you got no protection. It says in the pasuk the sukkah is to protect you. You need full walls, otherwise the rain is going to come in from one of the walls. If you've only got 3 walls and it's pouring with rain, you're going to get wet. The whole point of the sukkah is got to also keep it drying when it rains. Taisus, the bottom line in Taisus, he says, he brings you Yishalmi, the sukkah itself, Yishalmi, and in the time of Shemim, min hadakra, he quotes the same pasuk. The sukkah itself, Yoim Chayev, Hariata lemichsa lemistar shnayim, mizer mata shnayim. So the question is you see from the verse 2 walls. Michsa mista is 2. Zeramata is 2. And Rabbanan say Zeramata is really 1. Zeramata, rain, dew, it's all 1. So that's how they understand that pasuk. So you got a machlekes. We got a machlekes. What exactly that Reb Shimon learns from this pasuk? Take a look in this Taisus. Reb Shimon Sova Yeshiv Mikra. Very important Taisus to know. We're not going to see the whole thing because it's above my pay grade. It says Taisus Reb Shimon Sova Yeshiv Mikra. Everyone agrees that Shina Mikra Messias. Now, if the Torah is given a way to read and a way to is written, of course they both come to teach you something. You can't come along and say only one of them is important, right? Everyone, they both agree that you derish both the Mikra, the Messias, how it's written, and how it's said. The loyal came. The Torah didn't spell it this way for nothing. Of course, there's a reason why it's spelled this way. Ella, so what's the machlekes there? The question here is when you got a machlekes between how it's written and how it's said, which one are you derish? That's the kasha. The masav of mikra, and obviously the other one holds Messiah. That's the machlekes. Kadash Chon Rabbi Kiva Bereish Sanhedrin D'Sov Yeshin LeMikra. Or Rabbi Kiva says Yeshin LeMikra. Ubeper Kol Shah Gabi Lechem Oini. Rabbi Kiva says in the Torah you have to take Lechem Oini on Pesach. You sheet Lechem Oini. And Oini means Oini like without a vav, with a vav. You spell it with a vav Lechem Oini. That you answer on it a lot of things. That you're supposed to say that God when you have a matzah in front of you Lechem Oini, right? When you do the Lord Seder, you have to have lechem moini, she'edim alav dvar ma'aba. So you see he's derish, lemikra, how it's said. You say oini with a vav. But it's written lechem oini without a vav. Lechem oni. And that's coming to be derish that what? You can't make your matzah with honey and fruit juice and these things. That's not lechem oini. It's going to be poor man's bread. Poor man doesn't make bread with honey. He can't afford honey. Honey used to be very expensive in those days, apparently.
It is, by the way.
So, now it's even more expensive. Yeah, it's like the most expensive thing per kilo, right? It's like crazy expensive. I'm not sure if that's just over here in Tzedar Kodesh. Even those bees all over the place. For some reason, honey is still so expensive. It's one of the wonders of nature, right?
If you ever go on the train, see these boxes.
You see the box on the
sitting
side?
on the side.
Yeah. I think it's all pirate. They just people just throw them down there, hope for the best. They know no one's going to come over there who's not in the business and start messing with his bee boxes. It's one thing you're safe. Anyway, so you see, Rabbi Kiva himself also holds of Lemikra and Messiahs. Okay, we're very late, so let's just skip to this kasha. Tais says a miyu kasha.
Where are we in the Tosfos?
So, we won't see this whole thing. Omi Kasha, skip 5 lines. The Rabbi Kiva le'darish also mikra l'chud. Rabbi Kiva that doesn't learn from Messiahs, he only learns from mikra. But my le'darish tavai, Reb Shimon. Why doesn't he learn lechem oini and lechem oni? Can we go on lechem oini? He's talking about. He's going back to. We can't skip this. It says Tanan Rabbi Kiva. The question is when it says kapis tomorrow, you take all these things with the arba minim. You take 1 According to Rabbi Kiva, you take one of each. One lulav, one esrog, one hadas, and one arava. According to Reb Shimon, because why? Yeshem lemikra. It's how it's Yeshem lemisiris. It's how it's written. It's written kapas without a vav. So what do you do? Take one. But according to Reb Shimon, you take both. You take multiple. You take the lulav and the esrog. There's no question. Now you definitely take one. But our Rav and Mandas, the question is, why don't you take? Do you take both? Do you take multiple? All right, okay. We're not going to see the rest of the Taisus. It's a very complicated Taisus, way above my pay grade. He goes into whole Shas, when you derish l'mikra, when you derish Mesiris. We've got a couple of minutes. Let's just plow forward in the gemorah, try to get to the end of the page here. We've only got a couple of lines. So we've established that SUCCAH has to be 2 walls in a tefach or 3 walls in a tefach. Where do you put the tefach? If your gemorah is like mine, you got a little picture on the side. You got it.
Yeah.
So you got 2 walls and a little tefach at the end, right? You put it by the yetzer. What is a yetzer? Rashi says, "Makam shemechitza is kala." Beis shit. You put it whichever wall you want. At the end of whichever wall you want. You got 2 walls. It doesn't matter. Put it at the end of one of the walls. Well, it's not a kasha. Ma baya. Omalei Rav Kana, Rav Asi, Rav. They both said to Rav, you got 2 walls like this. Instead of having it straight like that, it should be coming off at an angle that should make the sukkah look like a triangle. In other words, you got 2 full walls. And the third wall, the tefach. Does it go here? He said, it should be at an angle. And now it looks like if that wall would carry on, you'd have 3 walls of sukkah. Because right now, if it's straight, right, if it carries on, you don't have a close sukkah. In other words, we're imagining that this, the Gemara is assuming, according to that kasha is, we're going to imagine that this third tefach is really a big wall. It's gone 100 miles. It's gone 10 meters. If it goes 10 meters, you've still got a 4th wall that's open. But if it's at an angle, reish tor, then it's blocking off the 3rd wall. So the question is, according to Rashi, it brings 2 opinions. Either it could be at the end, either one of the ends at an angle, or you got 2 walls like this, smack in the middle at an angle. Another opinion. I've got all these beautiful pictures in my gemorah. Could be like this, like this, like this. Where's it going to be? Where's that reish? Where's that thing? So what did Rav say? Shosik Rav. Rav kept quiet. It's a very strange gemara. I don't know where else it says such a thing. Shosik Rav. It's a machlekes of shaylim. What does it mean, Shosik Rav? Rav was Maida? What does that mean, Shosik Rav? Rav said, "Oh, okay, I guess you're right." He didn't say a thing. Rav was Maida, or Rav was like, "You're not saying anything. There's no reason to say such a thing. I can't argue with you. Like, there's no point." He didn't open his mouth. Shosik Rav. Machlekes, what does that mean? Don't know. So, okay, this is already the next element. I guess we'll leave it for tomorrow. Be'ezrat Hashem, v'zeicha, we'll carry on. Have a wonderful day.
Yeah, but it's fun. None of my pictures